Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are now live listening to Petty Sports, the podcast brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios. It's your boy, the host, Famous Fees. They call me Fax. I'm here live with my man, Adam. Holla, Adam.
You already know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. Petty Sports, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. You already know where to be. Again, you already know what time it is. Be sure to call into the show, 678-871-9602. Hop into the comments. This is episode, 55, 56? We're going to continue rolling through season 2. Everywhere on social media, you guys already know, but Fees, do the honors, friend. Tell us what we got on the lineup tonight.
Man, the lineup is locked and loaded. We got the off the top ready for you. I know y'all heard about it earlier today. Deebo Samuel's requested a trade, so we're going to chop it up about that in just a minute. We got to talk about the NBA playoffs. Y'all see the Nets and the Celtics are playing as we speak. We got to talk about the USFL debut because it was pretty dope for the opening game and then kind of fell off on the next day. But, that's its own thing right there. Errol Spence Jr., Baker Mayfield's talking. NFC North is on deck. We're going to talk about the draft just a little bit. Top 3 edge rushers. We got all kind of stuff to talk about today. We all over the spectrum, just like it is every single week. So, man, just like I always tell you, get your popcorn ready. Get you a pad and paper and take out some notes so you can let your people know that you know what you're talking about, because these good people here at Petty Sports let you know what the scoop is. Get you a good smoke. Get you a little something to sip on. Get you some Petty Sports murk to drink it out of. That's what you need. Get the Petty Sports mug. But, man, we're going to jump straight in. Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers has requested a trade. So now, should the San Francisco 49ers oblige his request, or should they call his bluff?
This is insane news, obviously, coming out of a wild, almost messed up NFL market for wide receivers, as we know, Fees. We've talked about it. I mean, we've seen the Tyreek Hills of the world and the Devontae Adams and the Stefan Diggs. And, some people are out there saying, well, Deebo Samuel, kind of can perform to that level of some of those guys and have the stats and have the scrimmage yards. But I don't think everybody should really get caught up in the fact that he's had – and before everybody comes jumping at me, it's been 1 year out of the 3 that he's been extremely productive. He was banged up a lot of last year. And if you want to get technical, he's missed a third of his NFL career so far. 1,770 scrimmage yards last year compared to Tyreek Hill, who had 1,335, Devontae Adams, who had 1,553, and then Stefan Diggs as well with 1,225. And I know that's a big thing that a lot of people are wanting to latch onto, but let's take a look at his draft class before we try to elevate him to some of these guys that have been to the league for a while, because I think Fees and I know sitting here, and a lot of the NFL heads out there know that Deebo Samuel is not, regarded as an elite receiver. He is a great receiver of his class, but let's look at the 2019 class between Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf, and then, of course, Deebo Samuel. When you look at the numbers, he doesn't have as many targets as those other guys, not as many scrimmage yards in totality, and especially not as many touchdowns. Deebo has accounted for 10 touchdowns in his entire career. But on the flip side, again, I understand crazy NFL receiver market. You've got guys out here making quarterback type of money, but at the end of the day, he's not, to me, he is not out there putting up that type of production to barter for that type of money. Maybe he doesn't want to beat anybody out. We heard Cooper Kupp. I'm not trying to be the highest paid wide receiver, but you also have to look internally at San Francisco, and they have to ask themselves, can we pay him? Do we have options? Well, no, you can't pay him. You're dead last in the league with barely under $2 million to spend. You don't have options. Yes, you have obviously a Jennings and you have a Brandon Ayuk, but who is your true wide receiver one? And this is why I feel like San Francisco might be strapped, because during that Super Bowl run year, Emmanuel Sanders was picked up at the trade deadline. Deebo Samuel obviously was still very young. They didn't have a number 1 target outside of Kittle, who still struggles to stay healthy, for Jimmy G. So it's a very tough spot for San Francisco. Again, Deebo, go get your money, because you're not going to get another payday. But it's tough for San Francisco, because what Deebo's asking for is kind of unjust, and San Fran doesn't have the assets to put it forth towards him. I don't know where they go.
That's a very interesting take. So, just like you say, he's only accounted for 10 touchdowns. That's 10 receiving touchdowns. He's got 11 rushing touchdowns to go along with it, which is part of the problem. He runs the ball too much.
Yeah.
That's why his receiver stats don't stack up against the rest of the receivers the way they should, because they use him as a part-time wide receiver, part-time running back.
Yep.
In his 3 seasons in the league, you referenced the Super Bowl year, he was a rookie. It's like, how much were you expecting out of him? Like, we can't really just hold his head to the fire for his rookie season. But really, his numbers really come and go with Jimmy. Jimmy's health, he had a good year in 2019. He had a good year in 2021. Didn't do a whole lot in 2020. What was the common denominator? No Jimmy G.
Yep.
So, I mean, if we look at it, the reports actually are saying that he's not wanting out because of the money. It's because of the scheme. They're shortening his shelf life by running him like that, which is why he's getting hurt and missing games.
Yeah.
He's running the ball almost as much as he's actually being targeted. No, you said he hasn't been targeted as much as the other guys, but when you really dig into it, he's had half as many rushes as he has targets. That's ridiculous for a wide receiver. So what are you trying to prove here?
Yeah.
He runs the ball entirely too much. He is a Swiss Army knife, and he's been very successful with it underneath Kyle Shanahan's system. But for him as a player personally, 3 years in the league, I think he's actually kind of fed up with what they're actually doing with him and the way they're using him, and that's why his numbers aren't stacking up.
Right.
He was 5th in the league in receiving yards last year, which is amazing, seeing as how he got so many less targets than the other top wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
And his numbers were still there. I mean, with 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns, it's like, yeah, the 6 weren't that much, but he had 8 rushing touchdowns. It's like he's getting it however he can get it. So, I mean, getting out of San Francisco will both get him the money that he's looking for, but more importantly, to get him out of the scheme. He's trying to get somewhere where he can preserve his health and increase the amount of time that he's actually able to play in the NFL. So, I mean, it's like disturbing when you really just dig into his stats and you see that in his 3 years, he has more playoff rushing attempts than he does pass targets.
Right.
Not catches, targets. He's run the ball more times than he's been targeted for a pass in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And San Francisco is consistently in the playoffs. So it's not like it's for a lack of games. Like we're like, oh, it's only one game.
Yeah.
That's not the case. But I think there's a deeper seated issue within him asking for this trade, especially him saying that it's beyond the money. I know it's because of the scheme, but there's a possibility that it's because of the lack of development of Trey Lance. He's there with him every day for practice. He knows what this man can and cannot do.
Right.
He also sees, just like what we all see, the team is looking to move Jimmy G. If they move Jimmy G, he's stuck with Trey. Trey just got there.
Yep.
He's going to get a long-term deal once they get rid of Jimmy. So he's like, man, if I sign up for this, I'm going to be stuck with this guy for the rest of my career, pretty much. Unless you play out another contract and hope that you don't get hurt when they're running you and passing and doing everything else under the sun with you.
Yeah.
He's like, man, get me out of here. Let me go somewhere else. This might actually be a testament to how wrong all of us were about how good we thought Trey Lance would be. Because he didn't seem to be developing, which is possibly the reason why Jimmy G hasn't been moved. No teams are interested in him, but San Francisco is in a limbo. Like, I don't know if we can get rid of him.
Yeah.
We don't know if Trey Lance is good enough to get rid of Jimmy G.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in a QB limbo. If they trade him, now you're stuck with Trey. Deebo is stuck right in the middle of the wash. He's like, man, let me out of here. He's going into the last year of his rookie deal for 4 years, $7.24 million. Mm-hmm. He's put up great numbers with a healthy Jimmy G and George Kittle. So, I mean, all things being fair, he wants a shot with an offense that actually is set up for a wide receiver that's going to pass.
Right.
Like, hey, like he's not even really tripping about the quarterback too much, but he's like, yo, like, throw the ball.
Right.
Stop handing it off to me. Like, let me do me. He already sees that running backs are not getting contract extensions.
Right.
And he's essentially being used like 60-40.
Right. Double the wear and tear, but definitely not double the pay.
Yeah, he's damn near a running back.
Right.
So, I mean, all of that being said, who do you see as being an actual legitimate trade partner for him?
If someone were to have to make an offer for Deebo, I know the Chiefs would be looking for a big play receiver like him. Obviously the Packers as well. I know the Packers obviously just went and got Sammy Watkins, but I don't believe he's going to be, even it's going to be a fringe wide receiver one position, if it's even pretty, honestly, with how his career has developed so far, which is sad because we saw what Sammy was in college. But if I had to say Chiefs, Packers, that'd probably be my top two teams right there. Maybe you could lean towards Broncos as well, but the Broncos are kind of set, obviously, in their wide receiving core. But again, you're going to look for a team that, wants to incorporate wide receivers, like you said, wants to bring them in, wants to actually have them part of a core, wants to be maybe not even pass heavy, but definitely using him more than the running back role, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of places that he wants to go and then places that actually could facilitate this. So I know he came out and said he wants to go to Kansas City. Kansas City would definitely be the best landing spot. He get to play with Pat Mahomes. They still got Kelsey out there. He's in a very pass-happy offense. That would be ideal. Kansas City doesn't have the assets to make this trade, though.
Right.
Their pick is at the end of the first round. San Francisco's not really interested in that.
Right.
They're not going to give them players. I mean, they could afford to pay him, but that would be given that San Francisco wants to make the deal with them. I mean, I think the Cowboys need him. The Green Bay
Cowboys is a
Packers
great spot.
need him. Both places would be good fits. However, neither one of them has the draft picks or the assets to to execute this trade.
Yep.
So he's not going there, on top of the fact that the Cowboys and the Packers are both in the NFC, and I don't think the San Francisco 49ers want to send Deebo somewhere where they'll potentially have to play against him in the playoffs. So they want to send him to the AFC. And I think the actual best landing spot for him would be, like, as far as on both sides, the Philadelphia Eagles. They could send him to Philly. They have the 15th and the 18th pick after this trade they just made with the Saints.
Yep.
They could give them a very high draft pick. They might give them a first and a second, maybe a first and a fourth, and another, maybe a second rounder for next year, and they could afford to pay him. Send him out there. Now he'd be paired with Devontae Smith, and you see Jalen Hurts is progressing. That would be a very good landing spot for both Deebo and the other side of the trade for the San Francisco 49ers. As far as teams that just have the actual assets, it's looking like he might end up being a Jet. If he gets traded, they have the high draft pick. So they got a 4th and a 10th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
If they give San Francisco one of those picks along with another late round pick.
That's so steep for a guy like Deebo.
Oh, yeah, but New York can afford it.
How desperate are you, though? How bad do you want him?
They can give up the pick because they were going to draft a wide receiver anyway.
Yeah.
If you get a proven commodity like him, then
Right.
like, we don't need the pick because we were going to do that anyway.
Right. And this wide receiver class isn't, it's good. It's not great, though. Definitely not like 2019.
It's a good wide receiver class, but none of those guys coming in are offering what Deebo is.
Precisely.
Especially in a division where you just seen, Buffalo has proven themselves over the past couple of seasons.
Yep.
Miami has beefed up their roster times 1,000, and New England has been consistently better than you. They're easily last in the division.
Right.
This move would make sense for the Jets. It would suck for Deebo. You're trying to get out of a bad situation. You're pretty much going into San Francisco purgatory with Salah, who just left there.
Yep.
It's like you're going to walk into almost the same system with a worse team, worse quarterback, worse defense, and they're probably going to use you even more.
Yep.
So it might actually benefit him to sit down.
Yep.
He's got one more year in his contract. Play the contract out.
I agree.
Be an undrafted free agent or an unrestricted free agent
Get another,
next season, and then you can go where you want to go.
Get another 12, 13, 1,400-yard season under your belt. Of course, fight for your rights in terms of not being a running back because you really don't want to expose yourself to what's going to be coming. And again, wide receivers don't get many paydays, let alone running backs get many paydays as well. So yeah, if you let him play the rest of it out and then really increase his value, now you could be really looking at a Chiefs, a Packers, other big suitors that actually want to bring you in, a Ravens as well. So yeah, I agree. You don't want to see Deebo be too greedy at all. You don't want to see Deebo be just. And I get it. It's not necessarily a money grab. It is more about the scheme because they got to use them correctly, for sure. Chris Grail, what's up, man? Levente, everybody out here in the chat. Jose, Aaron, Stubblefield, not a chance for the Chiefs. They might as well paid for Hill. There was something there about Kansas City, though, is the reason they couldn't pay for Tyreek. Again, Mahomes, Kelsey. And they got guys to develop. Hardman, Smith-Schuster. Heard millions of Niner fans cry all at once. It was beautiful. Yeah, I know. Cowboys fans look for anybody to cry out there, don't they, Chris? Jose says, but the Chiefs don't have anything to offer, and they have to pay him a lot of money. Very true.
Yeah.
It says a lot because they have
has proven themselves over the past. That's why I say, hey, Philly is probably one of the best landing spots. The Jets, the most likely, just because of what the Philly can't offer what the Jets can.
Yeah. H.L. Craven says, Pittsburgh, go get Deebo. Is Jamila still in here? God, hide if she is. She's already in here commenting first.
They have no quarterback.
Yeah. Deebo definitely has to go to a system that is quarterback prominent. He's not ball hungry, but he definitely wants to catch more passes. Let's just keep it that way, which is recognizable. It's simple.
Yeah, I think Indy and Cleveland would also be great spots for him as a receiver, but they don't have anything to offer.
Right.
Damn shame. But, man, we're going to shift gears to the NBA. We're watching the playoffs right now. Brooklyn is up by 12 going into the last seconds of the first half in Game 2. The playoffs are going crazy. We're not going to go just run through each game one by one. We're going to talk about the X factors for each series. So Suns versus Pelicans. We're going to look at that series first. The Suns and the Pelicans are tied 1-1. Who's the X factor in that series?
I got to say it's Devin Booker. Obviously, he goes out at the end of the game, still scoring 30-plus points in that game. And Devin Booker is a very prolific scorer. When you look at a team like the Pelicans that's got a Brandon Ingram, that has a C.J. McCollum, that has other guys out there that can be key role players. And if you give them any sort of, I guess if you leave the door ajar, for lack of better words, they could potentially come in, win a game. And obviously, winning at the end of the last game because Devin Booker went out, that's why he immediately comes in as my X factor. I trust Chris Paul in these type of moments. Okay, we saw the type of playoff performances already had just in this postseason a little bit last year. DeAndre Ayton could play a little bit better, but you're talking about, one of the best scorers in the league, the best player for the Phoenix Suns right now. And like I said, the Pelicans have a lot of role key guys. You don't want to let them, again, don't leave the door ajar. Got to be D-Book here for an X factor.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree. I had the same guy on my list. I'm also going with Devin Booker. He left with 31 points he scored in the first half. He actually didn't do anything in the third quarter. So, that is actually kind of concerning. Before he got hurt, his scoring actually tailed all the way off. Brandon Ingram, he went off in the second half. He just straight took over. So, I know folks are looking at it like the Suns went 8-6 while Booker was out this season. But this is the playoffs. This is different. This is basically the story of CP3's career. Every single season, it's either his injury or someone else's with a built-in ready-made excuse like, if they had so-and-so, then they would have had a better chance. More of the same. If Booker doesn't come back, I think the Suns, who ran away with the best record in the league, are going to have an early playoff exit, and there are going to be a whole lot of questions about what they should do with this team moving forward.
Yeah. What's good, Twisted Clown on YouTube? I think we got a caller, and I know it's Chris G. He's over here asking, what's the number? I'll call in. Don't cap like you don't know, Chris. Welcome in. How are you?
What's up, dude?
Is this
How
Chris?
you doing?
Is this Chris G?
Yeah, this is Chris.
Finally.
Oh, man, months of
Your number one fan, yo.
I know. What's
yeah,
happening?
yo. My kids aren't asleep yet, so I got to call in.
Well, we'll
all I know is
today. What's up, man?
Talk about the Niners is, one, I hate the Niners because I'm from San Francisco because no one likes the Niners.
Heard.
And two, what does that say about the team? They need drafts so badly that they're scared of Trey Lance.
Say that last part again. What does that say about the team that
they're so scared that I don't think they trust Trey Lance, which I don't trust him. I wouldn't have traded all those picks for him, but the Niners did. So now look what they have to do. They have to play catch up.
Right.
Yeah, San Francisco essentially screwed themselves trading all those draft picks and Trey Lance not actually developing into the player that they thought he was going to be. So now they're in a limbo sitting with Jimmy G.
Not even Tom Brady's worth all those. I wouldn't pay all this. No, seriously.
Not at 60 years old.
If you think about it, you're going to pay all those draft picks? I don't think so. That's a risk. Yeah. Not even Joe Montana is worth that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not worth it until you know they are. They really thought that he was actually going to be that next guy.
Yeah.
And he really is not.
Yeah.
Well, they thought he was going to be Patrick Mahomes because he kind of played like him, I guess.
Yeah, in a super weak.
But as a Cowboys fan, I'm loving it because I love watching the 49ers cry.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you want to talk about basketball, we got to talk about my Warriors.
Oh yeah, we haven't gotten to them yet, but the Warriors are looking pretty amazing. But as far as
they're going to get. They're doing good now. Steph Curry's way better than LeBron. We all know that.
This guy loves crossing eras. You talk like you comment on the chat, bro.
No, I'm just saying. And Kyrie being his little emo self, you can't help.
Season?
Oh, I'm an all-star guy. I'm an all-star, big all-star man, but I can't take some heckling from some Boston douchebags. Come on now.
Hey,
come on. You're on the full stage. You're in the limelight. You're supposed to take crap from your other. Come on. So he wouldn't survive if he had to go to Dallas Cowboys fans. He would be crying. He'd be like, "Oh, don't. I'll tell my mommy."
Oh, geez.
So, I mean, since you mentioned the Celtics, we'll just go ahead and shift gears all the way into the Boston series. Kyrie is absolutely the X factor in this series. He's showing us now that without injuries, he easily could be averaging over 30 points a game. So we just haven't seen him consistently play. He's now not been hurt.
Problem, consistency. You could be good one day and shit next week, but if you're not, like, a good example is the 49ers. Oh, you could be good for all three quarters, but then if you blow it in the fourth quarter, that doesn't mean shit.
Well, that's usually what people say about the Falcons, not San Francisco. But as far as Kyrie is concerned, he's actually been showing it consistently for like the past couple of months. Every time we've seen Kyrie step on the court, it's been nothing short of amazing. He's now doing the same thing.
Oh, come on. Now you're a Kyrie fan? Get out of here.
I mean, what has he done that hasn't been? He's giving you nothing short of 30 points a game. That's not that easy to do in the NBA. Everybody's not pumping out 30 every time they step on the court.
That's facts.
You can be as big a Curry stan as you want to, but the fact remains, Kyrie is out there killing. If you're denying that, then you're just straight up hating.
All right, Chris, we got to
me, a hater? Never. All right, thank you. I got to go. I got to put my kids to sleep.
Oh, yeah, we know.
I'll call you next week.
Hey, appreciate you finally making an appearance.
Now I got the confidence here. I'm going to call every week.
Good.
It'll be its own segment.
Yeah, we'll have the Chris G segment. All right, Chris. Peace, man.
Peace out.
824 here on Petty Sports. Whew, that was a lot there. Let's get a reset here with the Kobe break. 824, 3, 2, 1. Kobe! R.I.P. to the Mamba and all the X factors that didn't just get mentioned in that segment because Chris called it.
Well, he touched on every player across every sport in 10 seconds.
Yeah. From Tom Brady to Joe Montana to Deebo Samuel to Kyrie Irving to the Cowboys and back to the Niners, and now we're at the Kobe break.
With LeBron, Curry, everybody.
Yeah, everybody in between. Hey, Chris, we appreciate you on a real note, though, calling in. You've been in the chat for a while now. We know you're a big fan of the show. We just got to handle you better next time you get on the mic, man. Sheesh. Speaking of Mike, over to you, Bell, for the 825 because of Chris G break, and then we'll swing back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. You are tuned in to Wednesday Night Petty Sports Edition, featuring famous facts, fees, Adam Lewis, and of course you, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat room. Appreciate you guys joining the show tonight. All this is brought to you by Post 880 Radio. That's a 24/7 internet radio station, and it's the pulse of the South. You know what I'm saying? From right here in the ATL, great state of Georgia. You know what I'm talking about? So yes. Do tune in 24/7 right there. Type in Pulse 880 Radio. You see it on the table right there in between the guys. Yeah, tune in. All kind of music. All right, appreciate it. Everybody share the show. Thank you for tuning in. Like always, you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with the crew, making it do what it do. And Chris getting his 5 minutes of fame, and he made it count. You know what I'm saying? Like, he not 1 minute went to waste with that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like they say, he covered a lot of ground in a very little short period of time. So, it almost felt like he did have his own segment, you know? But appreciate the call, big guy. You know what I'm saying? Call in anytime. And ladies and gentlemen, you do the same. Don't be afraid. 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight and join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. Support black business, support black business, support black business. Because we do ATL. Ho, go over there to KingsBroadcasting.com and spend some money. All right, hit that donate button. No donation is too big or small. We love you, ATL. Hold back to the regular scheduled program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to stick with the NBA for a few minutes as we come back from the break because we didn't really touch on too many of them. We had a couple of these series. Some of y'all will be like, oh, why didn't you talk about my team? Like, hey, there's not time for everything. But we're definitely going to jump in, talk about this Warriors-Nuggets series real quick. Who's the X factor here, and what have you seen happening?
I've got to say it's the Splash Brothers' health so far. We saw Steph Curry at the end of the season, twist his foot, ankle, whatever it was, miss the final 12 games. Luckily, the Warriors do go 6-6 down that stretch. And then you've got Klay Thompson as well, who the Warriors have been adjusting, obviously bringing him back into the lineup. And he's been pretty great so far, throughout the season, throughout the playoffs. We have seen some of the health, of course, kind of hinder him. But, maybe we expected that with an ACL and an Achilles, obviously coming back from two major injuries. But, we know Jordan Poole is playing well. And I feel like all the key players right now for Golden State are performing when they need to. It's if Curry and Clay can take them to the promised land, because we know they're the nucleus. We know they're going to have to be the ones that play the biggest and the best under the moments that are, obviously most stressful in order for them to take it to the top. Like many people, me included, think that Golden State can do by making a title run this year. So definitely got to say the health of Steph and Clay will be the X factor in this one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Steph has come back still on a minutes restriction, and he's looking like they've actually resurrected the unanimous MVP Steph. I mean, 34 points in 23 minutes is just insane the way he's shooting, but it's the confidence that he's playing with. His handles look crisp, moves are all the way on point, shot is on. Even in his limited time in a game, he's coming in, and he's just coming in handling business. I mean, really, the playoffs is the only place where Steph was actually getting criticism that he wasn't playing this style of basketball in the postseason. And if he continues on the tear that he's actually on right now, then there'll really be nothing else to say other than why wasn't he doing this before? But, I mean, in addition to him, you got Jordan Poole out there looking like he's taken over the Harrison Barnes role from a few years back. Like, Harrison Barnes had the role, KD had the role, and now Jordan Poole is taking it over, and he's taking it head on. I mean, he's averaging just a tick under 30 points in these 2 playoff games, and he's become a real problem. You can't put extra guys out there to guard him because you still got Curry and Clay to worry about.
Right.
So, I mean, he's got free reign to do whatever he wants to do, and Draymond is out there looking like little Dennis Rodman Jr., playing defense, frustrating Jokic. And, I mean, he's the glue guy. Clearly, Draymond cannot actually function on his own, but with a team around him, the way Golden State is put together, he's perfect for him. He orchestrates it. He's their energy, the heartbeat. He does everything outside of the stats to make sure that this team wins. So, man, we'll look at the home team, the Heat and the Hawks. The Hawks are now down 2-0 behind a ridiculous Jimmy Butler performance. Who is the X factor in this series?
Thankfully, since John Collins has come back, I have to say that John Collins will be the X factor in the Miami Heat Atlanta Hawks first round series here in the NBA playoffs. Because you look at the fact that, the size of the Heat, whether it's from Adebayo to obviously Jimmy Butler, who can, kind of play with some size, be quick as well. And, again, Trae Young, I would say that he could be the ultimate X factor here, but the Heat are either going to learn how to clamp him and the Hawks are going to learn how to overcome, or they will obviously fall. So that's pretty straightforward. Trae has obviously found his spot within the Hawks. But when we talk about John Collins, when he was drafted, when he was brought in, I don't feel like he's necessarily lived up to what we brought him in for, to what the Hawks had actually drafted him for. We see him a little bit last year in some of the playoff run, kind of perform well, but then coming in this year, limited minutes from 21 minutes to 29. And of course, he's trying to find his way, but he's got to use the rebounding. He's got to use the physicality and really play like that true number 2 player. Like I've always said, that has to be there for Trae Young, not a Bogey, not a Gallinari, not a Lou Williams, not even a Kevin Huerter. Maybe Huerter can be a borderline 2 to 3, but I'm more comfortable with Trae 1, John Collins 2, Kevin Huerter 3. It's got to be JC as an X factor here.
I mean, I can hear you on that, but Jimmy is definitely the X factor, the way he's controlling the series. Between him and the physicality that the Heat are playing with, I mean, they're absolutely bullying the Hawks. And if Jimmy is going to go off like that, then the Hawks really don't stand a chance.
Right.
But if you really just keep it in the retrospect, we didn't expect much more out of them. The Hawks were the 9 seed, and they were fortunate to make it into the playoffs. And the fact that you made it in as the 8 seed meant that you had the misfortune of playing the top-seeded Heat. Yep. We do not expect them to go in there and beat them. They're down 0-2. I figured they'll steal one game in State Farm and really give the city something to rally behind, but the series is not going more than 5 games. It's going to be just exactly what we expected. They're going to get beat by the top seed. I mean, the 8 rarely takes out the 1, and this is not going to be anything different than what's normally expected.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it just, unfortunately for them, it just is what it is.
Right.
I mean, before we switch gears and change complete subjects, I think we'll hit these Bucks and the Bulls. They play later on tonight at 9:30. That game will tip off in an hour. The Bucks are up 1-0 on Chicago, who was in regular season. The Bulls were they were in the top seed for a long time. So, I mean, what are you seeing in this one?
Bucks Bulls, definitely going to be a physical series, definitely going to be a series of not only superstars, of course, but again, key players, role players. How are these guys going to be able to perform when you have, big players like Zach LaVine, maybe an Alex Caruso? I believe that is Caruso with the Bulls, correct? if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You know, how are those two guys going to be able to stack up against a Giannis, against a Chris Middleton, against a Drew Holiday? And when I look in on that vast majority of players throughout the series, Chris Middleton is the one guy that I feel like if the Bucks want to be able to make this a smooth series, because I really don't think it should go more than 6 games at the ceiling, just because the Bucks have the talent. They've got a Giannis. They've got these other players that are clearly better than Chicago's been all year. You go back to the head-to-head matchups. I mean, just go take a look at everything throughout the regular season between these two teams. You bring in Chris Middleton, or you have Chris Middleton playing within this role to where we've seen him up and down and up and down. And we know Giannis is going to play 110, 120% every single night. But is Chris Middleton going to come out and give you 12 points on, 27% shooting, or is he going to give you a solid 25 to where it seems like he can't miss? I know he can be a very hot and cold player, but when Chris Middleton is on fire, I feel like the Bucks are one of the most unstoppable teams in the league. Chris Middleton is my X factor.
I mean, I think in this series in particular is still Giannis, just because the Bulls are still a fairly young team. Like, this is a new stage for them.
Yeah.
They really have excelled this season. But as far as Giannis, I mean, so long as he keeps playing at the accelerated level that he achieved in the finals last year,
yeah,
he's like, Chicago's just overmatched with him. I mean, 27-16, they really made light work out of Chicago. He didn't even go all the way hard against them. They easily took they're going to take the 2-0 lead in this series come later on tonight. Won't really be difficult. So long as Giannis actually, he started to learn how to play without the ball and not dominate the ball the entire game.
Yeah.
And now he's virtually impossible to defend because he's not out there from the top of the key trying to run into the wall that everyone used to try to put up against him every single game.
Yeah.
I mean, Chicago has nothing for him. I mean, they've legit put the league on notice. They're the defending champs for a reason. They'll be a problem. The other guys will come into play when they get into series against other teams that have multiple superstars, whether it's they see the Nets, the Sixers, or one of those teams that actually have a lot more to throw at him and can score more. But I don't think Chicago really presents a problem for them, and Giannis is enough to beat them.
Yeah, easily. They're the best team overall. Or not overall, but out of the two, for sure. They should come away victorious easily in this series.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. So now we're going to shift gears back to the gridiron, but not the NFL. The USFL made their debut weekend this past Saturday and Sunday in Birmingham. All the games were in Birmingham, just as we had discussed. So what are your first impressions of this spring football league?
It feels nice to have spring football in a time where usually MLB is prominent. NBA playoffs like we see right now are going on, but now you're bringing in a new league to where obviously America loves football. It's America's sport. I understand soccer is very prominent and you've got all these other sports out here, but I don't feel like anything truly brings people together to watch sports or as much excitement, eyes, money as the pigskin with the laces. Let's just call it what it is. So seeing football in the spring was great. It lets you know that we might have a league that can actually stick around. And of course it won't compete with the NFL, but when you actually go back and look at some of the numbers, for the broadcast, it's outperforming some of these NBA playoff games. It's outperforming baseball. It's outperforming, some of these soccer games. And you're kind of shocked to look at that and say, wow, it's 1 to 2 to 3 million viewers for a spring football game that only has 8 teams. But again, that speaks to the testament of the sport, how people are feeling about it already and how they want to build around this brand, for years to come. I thought the play was good. Obviously, it's not going to be, NFL type play, about college football style play, like you said, an explosive play here and there. Nothing really crazy. Maybe a step up from college, but we're definitely not talking about NFL style level of football. And, you kind of want to ask yourself, how can I compare that? But the NFL has clearly put out a product for so long. So we know what the USFL at least has to stack up against. Love the camera angles. Love the mic up, the crunching of the pads that they were trying to go for. I mean, it was overall, I feel like, a great execution. Coming back in, having these new 8 teams. So we'll see how it kind of unfolds and what will the USFL and actual spring football be for years to come.
Oh, yeah, man. I actually went to Birmingham for the debut game between the Stallions and the Generals. Game was actually, really exciting. I like the way that they actually present the product on the field. I mean, from being out there, they tried their best to keep that whole thing exciting. Being there, just like I was explaining to you, for those of y'all who actually saw the post, I gave a full review of what I watched out there. I mean, it was it was kind of like watching mid-major D1 football. They had a few explosive plays. The players were really hyping into it. I was actually surprised that, like, Birmingham had a lot of fans. Like, people came out there like they've been rooting for the Stallions for years. They were really hyped for that team, and then they came back and got the W at the end of the game. So it was actually, like, it was really hype and exciting. Brand new stadium out there in Birmingham. I mean, it was really, really nice. Like, I had never even seen the thing. I've been out there 100 times. It's like, well, when did they build this?
Yeah.
But, like, that's apparently where UAB is going to play. But the stadium was nice. Product was good. One thing that I was actually concerned with, that question was answered on the following Sunday, the next day, was how are you going to fill these stands when Birmingham isn't playing?
Yeah.
All 8 teams are playing in the same stadium in the same city for the entire league.
Yeah.
Birmingham packed the stadium out, but no one came on Sunday.
Right.
That stadium was empty like the no-fan COVID days of the NFL.
Yeah.
There was no one there for the rest of those games. So they're going to have to do something to entice fans. Like, not even just fans. They've got to entice the people of Birmingham to come to the stadium when their team isn't playing.
Right.
Like, there aren't people there from Michigan and New Jersey and Houston and everywhere else where these teams are from to actually fill the stadium for players they don't recognize, for a brand new team. That product is not in their state. So, like, you've got to figure out a way to actually generate some fanfare for the teams that aren't Birmingham.
Right.
That's the only one that actually has fans. I mean, that could end up being a problem sooner than later. So, I mean, outside of their fanfare issues, can you see this league having long-term success?
I hope. I honestly hope, because like I said, it is enjoyable to see spring football right now, to see something that, and I know it might feel like a lot with, baseball, NBA playoffs, whatever the case may be, unfolding, NFL draft coming up. But in order for them to be successful, they obviously got to get their marketing up. They got to really build the brand. They got to push it out there. And once they're able to bring in higher talent, once they're able to bring in talent that will actually, commingle with this brand and maybe not oppose the NFL, but at least try to bump up against. I mean, again, their numbers are already outperforming some of the NBA playoffs, already, and some baseball games, already some soccer games. So they've got a good pedigree so far and a good foundation to try to push and make it successful. But if you can bring in some of that talent, that obviously brings a lot of eyes to the television, gets a lot of merchandise sold, gets a lot of gear out there, gets a lot of endorsements going, this will become a successful league. And you've even got Chris G hopping in the chat saying, USFL could be the end or could rival the NCAA. That is very well possible. We don't know how many years it might take. There's obviously a ton of money in college football and not as much money in the USFL right now, but you're talking about another platform to make these guys professional, to where you don't feel like they have to run to the NFL, where, some people say the NFL is not what it's cracked up to be. So in terms of long-term success, it's definitely possible, but it's solely going to ride on the marketing of what kind of talent they can bring to this new football league. Yeah,
I mean, unless they're able to have some type of marketing strategy to get more people actually in there, I don't really see it going past this season.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, the inaugural season will likely be the only season. I mean, they don't have enough of a following, and without having these games being in the cities that the actual teams are in, there's not a lot of motivation for people to really be all the way interested in the games.
Right.
It was extremely fun for me because I actually went. But how many people are going to Birmingham? Everyone doesn't live close to Birmingham.
Right.
I'm not going to drive to Birmingham every week to watch those games.
Right.
I went to go see the first one. And that was just because of some other circumstances. But I'm like, hey, they got to do a lot more in order to increase the product. As far as them taking over the NCAA, that's highly unlikely. I mean, they make more money with NIL deals than they'll get playing in the USFL. It might be a harvesting ground if they're able to keep it going for more than one season. They'll possibly get NCAA players that did not get drafted. Undrafted players may go there so they can be seen. But as it stands, I don't see it rivaling the NCAA in any way, and I don't see it actually being able to stand up. It's going to be a one-year project. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board. If it goes past one, they're going to have to change some things. And I think the major thing for them to change is the games are going to have to be in the cities of the teams that are playing. When you have a game between two teams and neither of them is the home team, who the hell is going? it's not the NFL like when they go play in Wembley Stadium out in London,
right,
where you got crazy fans just because the league is like that.
Right.
This is brand new. No one's going. I mean, who wants to watch Michigan and Houston and Birmingham? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
And that's exactly what you got.
Yep.
It's like, you got to figure that part out.
Absolutely. And that comes with lack of money, not being able to build stadiums, obviously. You know, again, people don't realize that the NFL, everything that's going on around it, it is all backed by a ton of money. Everything that you're able to do, from the gear to the stadium to having things exclusive for your team, that takes a ton of marketing and a ton of building the brand. That's why we give a lot of credit to David Stern for what he did with the NBA. Yeah. The NBA was not nearly on the platform that it was by the time Stern got a hold of it, and by the time he passed, he had 20x'd the NBA. That takes a lot of hard work. And, you know, we don't mean to set up here. And, you know, it was kind of tough to hear you say, oh, this might be the last and, you know, first and last season of the USFL. But it's what we've seen. Whether it's because of a pandemic, whether it's because it's just a flop, whether it's because they don't have the talent, it is hard to build a sports league. And that's why, as bad as baseball, football, basketball might be, there's only one, because it's so hard to build that type of business.
Oh, so, absolutely.
Well, we'll see what happens with the USFL, though. Again, spring football, they'll have, you know, a couple million eyes on it, but is it going to be the type of traffic that is required to build a sports league like that?
Oh, yeah. So, man, we're already, like, the time is just flying away on us. We're going to run to the 8:45 break real quick, but y'all make sure you keep it locked. When we come back, we're going to hit you with, what is this, our 5th installment of Versus or 6th?
Jeez.
I think it's the 5th one, but
it might be.
We're going 2004 USC Trojans versus the 2017 Georgia Bulldogs. Y'all make sure you don't go anywhere for this one. It's going to be heated. We got so much more to cover. We got topics that we skipped that we got to get back around to. So y'all don't go nowhere. Mike Beasley, take it away.
Yeah, appreciate that. Facts. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned in to Petty Sports Wednesday Night Edition, like every week, 8 p.m. to Famous Facts Fees, and our guy Adam Lewis at the table doing what they do, bringing you the latest and greatest in the sports world. All brought to you by Pulse 880 Radio. Pulse 880 Radio is a 24/7 internet radio station that plays all types of music: R&B, urban, hip hop, soft rock. I mean, you name it. Old school on the weekends, gospel in the mornings. Hey, man, check them out 24/7 right there. Type in Pulse 880 Radio. You know what I'm saying? And you can listen to the guys, you know, or you can listen to the music right there in your favorite radio, you know what I'm saying, hub, your car, at home, or whatever. So appreciate that. And go to your favorite podcast platform of preference and type in Petty Sports to download some of the shows, or just simply listen. You know, we'll greatly appreciate it. Apple, iHeart, Google, Spotify, you know what I'm saying? They're all over the place. So, you know, support the show by doing a big solid and tuning in that way as well. And continue to share the show, share the link with some of your favorite sports fans out there, you know what I'm saying, men, women, kids alike. You know, they get a chance to tune in and hear some real grassroots sports talk from guys that know what they're talking about, all right? You know what I'm saying? So call in 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. We'd love to hear from you guys. And go to subscribe over there on the YouTube page. The numbers on Facebook are outstanding. We greatly appreciate everybody that's participating and helping to grow those numbers. But we like to do the same thing over on YouTube. You know, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. So anytime the show is live, you guys won't miss a beat when they go hot, and you can tune in right away. So appreciate it. We're on TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, you know. So, hey, just type it in, Instagram, Petty Sports. They're all over the place. You know, hit that QR code on your screen. You know what I'm saying? You can really find a lot of information about the Kings Broadcasting Company, Pulse 880 Radio, and the Petty Sports Show as well right there. So, hey, we all over the place, man. So where you get with the program, share the show. Miss Sharper, how your team doing out there tonight? You know what I'm saying? Hey, where you at? You know, Boston in the house. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We love you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are back. It is time for another edition of the Petty Sports versus Highlight Battle. This time, we're battling nostalgic college football teams. The 2004 USC Trojans versus the 2017 UGA Bulldogs. Y'all weigh in in the comments. Let us know which squad's highlights you think are better. Go ahead and kick us off with your number 5 highlight, Adam.
Oh, man, this was a trip down memory lane. It was like, man, it's 2017 all over again. I'm 19 years old. I am in a house full of Falcons and Bulldogs fans just about to watch all of these highlights. And we might have a caller coming in right before we hit the verses. Ooh. We might have the caller peeping in before we hit the verses. We'll give you a quick minute here. Only because callers are so rare on the petty line.
Oh, it's all good. They're feeling froggy tonight. They're chiming in. I don't know if they want to talk about USC, UGA. They want to talk about the USFL. Nope, doesn't sound like we hear them.
No caller.
Let's roll the highlight.
We're going to proceed forward with the highlights here. I believe the first one, I left on my... what's it called? I had them all like written down with timestamps and everything when I was cutting them today. But once it gets rolling, I'll know immediately which one it is here. So the number 1 highlight, this was the best moment of the season. I actually cried after this play. Sony Michel out of the Wildcat after Georgia has an amazing play to set it up in double overtime to send them to the national championship. A 54-48 win. They were down by double digits at the half. Insane highlight for the Dogs.
Baker.
And upset Baker Mayfield, who doesn't know what to do with himself. We might have a caller on the line in the middle of the verses, though.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. What's happening, man? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's up, my man? We can hear you. What's your name? Where you calling from?
He might have been able to hear Bell only on the phone. Not sure.
Yo, can you hear me? This is Foley from I'm calling about the Deebo trade.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Seems like he can't hear us.
Yeah,
but
we can hear him, but he can't hear us, unfortunately. If you can, tell him to go with his take. If not, we'll just keep rolling until we maybe get him patched in. Yeah, go ahead with his take. We'll reply to him. Just tell him to turn us off. Tell him to turn us off.
Okay. You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, listen. As far as my take goes for the Deebo trade, you know what I'm saying, I think he's more concerned about the scheme and not being able to, or, you know, not getting the touches and therefore not getting the incentives that are involved in the that they're involved in the contract.
Yeah.
The executive vice president, Parag, is a pretty good shark when it comes to the writing the contract.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I mean, that's definitely on line with, like, what I said about it. It's like, it's definitely a combination of the scheme and the fact that he could be just concerned about the whole, the quarterback controversy overall, not knowing which one of those guys is going to be under center and his shelf life.
Right.
But that's definitely on point with what's happening out there, especially with the reports saying that it's more than the money.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's I remember when the Deebo trade came out, and I was like, "This is definitely what's going off the top." But yeah, again, you know, crazy wide receiver market. You know, it definitely is caught up with the scheme for sure because he doesn't want to be double used, but he's not being double paid. He doesn't know about the quarterback room, and he knows that there's quarterbacks out there. He knows there's teams that are out there that need a Deebo Samuel, that need a solid wide receiver 1, fringe 1 to 2. You know, however you want to view Deebo, he's got a spot to land in the league. So whether it's the scheme, like a lot of people think, or you know, like the people here on the show think, or whether it's the money, we'll have to wait and see how it actually plays out for Deebo. But swinging back over to the verses, yep, that was the run that sent the Georgia Bulldogs to the national championship. Tear in my eye in the corner of my little home in Tyrone, Georgia. What a night it was to send the Dogs to the title.
Oh, yeah. So now we get to the real, the SC highlights.
Reggie.
Yeah, we're going to start this thing off with Virginia Tech. Opening game of the season, coming off a national championship win over Michigan to start the 2004 season. You see Reggie Bush. You see more Reggie Bush killing Virginia Tech straight out of the blocks in the opener.
Jeez, just off for one?
Matt Leinart tossing them. You just saw Reggie score 3 touchdowns right quick. Then you saw him with the sack, the secure the fumble, and the W. to start the win for the next national championship game. Yes, because it was back-to-back.
Jeez.
And from my man Chris G, who just called, who clearly likes Notre Dame, y'all can suck it because they suck. And they always have. When the last time Notre Dame won a national championship? Was it like the 80s?
Man, last time it was in when
like
they got
89 or something like that?
blasted by Bama back in 2012, 2013. I remember that too. That was freshman year of high school. I remember was walking into a Dollar General and the gentleman was like, "Oh, Alabama's not going to beat Auburn." I was like, "You haven't been watching college football this year, sir." And then everybody thinks Notre Dame's going to do what they do with at the national championship. They come out in the first play of the game, get a decent little run, and that was literally it. They had one play, that was it. It was 28-0 halftime Alabama, and I didn't watch the second half. I went to bed, had school in the morning.
The whole team got catfished, just like they players, the linebackers' girlfriend did them.
Oh, man, Ty Teo. Ouch. You be careful there, sir. The Saints had some interest in him now. I think he left, came back.
He played for the Chargers for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, what you got for your number 4 highlight
The number
with your Bulldogs?
4 highlight will be the play that actually set up the last play I was just mentioning. I had to include them in on here. When I think back to the 2017 season, I think of the Rose Bowl. I think of the major plays that were there throughout the entirety of the game. And when Oklahoma goes up for this kick, as a Dogs fan, everybody around the world was wondering, is this really how we're going to go down? Is this really how we're going to come back from a 14-point deficit, from the Heisman winner who was catching touchdown passes and 2-point conversions in this game, just being downright disrespectful? And then we blocked the kick. Great moment for Georgia, very rejuvenated, and it honestly gave us the energy to be able to roll right over into the next drive in double OT and run it in with Sony Michel out of the Wildcat like we just saw there. Great play from the 2017 season.
Okay. Not mad at that one, but got a better moment for the 2004 USC Trojans. Last game of the season, UCLA, Reggie Bush, more Reggie Bush, more Reggie Bush. This was to secure the 12-0 season, cut them up, somersault into the end zone. Ooh. Do what Reggie do. That's how they killed him the whole season. Every clip you see is Reggie just breaking. No one could do anything with that man the entire season. Most electrifying college football player that any of us have ever watched, especially for you raggedy Notre Dame fans. Y'all just watch it and cry. But you see, they didn't just go down without a fight. It was actually a tight game. Interception to seal the victory. 12-0. Punched the ticket to the Orange Bowl, where they stomped a mud hole in the Oklahoma Sooners, which you know good and well that's going to be on the highlight reel.
Reggie Bush. Are we sure this is college football team highlights or just Reggie Bush highlights, bro? Like I'm not really sure which way we're leaning here.
Hey, I mean, it's 04 USC, baby.
Yeah, it's 04 USC might as well just be a synonym for Reggie Bush. They're the same word.
I mean, you got Jake from State Farm up there.
Yeah, Jake from State Farm, absolutely. The one season college football quarterback wonder that Georgia had for some reason. Insane Moss catch here by Javon Wims. Nice little go get 'em throw from Jake Fromm. One of the couple highlights from his freshman year. Javon Wims absolutely goes up. Just mosses a Florida secondary defender over the goal line for the touchdown. And, I feel like I should have thrown this on here as well because we don't really see physical Georgia receivers, nice, big touchdown passes, going up and grabbing the ball out of the air because sometimes we don't see that vertical threat, out of the Bulldogs. And sometimes we miss that from the 2017 season. But what a throw here from Fromm to Wims. There were so many I could have put in there. I literally had like 4 lined up. Ended up having to go with that one. Great play from the 2017 year.
Oh, yeah, but this next one right here is just for Chris G since he decided to mention Notre Dame. 41-10 victory over Notre Dame. That's Dwayne Garrett. It's not Reggie Bush. You see, other people actually scored touchdowns for the 2004 team. But, yeah, there's that guy again. Because, mama, there goes that man. Reggie Bush, takeoff, touchdown, count them. That's what they do all season long. Couldn't stop them. Stomped a dirty mud hole in Notre Dame. But you see there, you got Steve Smith Jr., because he had to put the junior on there because of my man from Carolina.
Yeah.
And there goes Bird. I mean, they got all kind of receivers out there. Everybody getting in on the party. 41-10 shellacking over a hated rival in Notre Dame. Play them every year. Drug them.
You walked into that one, Chris.
That's how you beat up a rival.
That's one you walked into, Chris. I'm so sorry.
I know you hate seeing number 5. He don't even like $5 bills anymore because of Reggie.
Oh, ouch. Can't even be a cheap date if you wanted to. Tough. Another highlight here from the 2017 season, Nick Chubb in the Rose Bowl. That was easily the best game that the Dogs played all year. Of course, against Auburn as well, but Nick Chubb shrugging off 3 defenders. This was the Nick Chubb that Georgia witnessed. This was the Nick Chubb out of Cedartown, the track star that ran the 400, the monster, the speedster, the man who literally put the Bulldogs on his back with a DeAndre Swift, with a Sony Michel, went through an injury. What more can we say about Nick Chubb here? The burst of speed after breaking all the tackles and just simply outrunning the entire pile. This was major for Georgia. It was actually their second one-play touchdown drive of the game against Oklahoma, with the first one being a 75-yard scamper by Sony Michel. You just couldn't stop the Dogs this year. They ran the ball, and ran the football to wear you down.
I mean, apparently they did get stopped because they didn't win the championship that year.
Yeah, it was horrible. That was bad at the championship game.
We'll look at this next USC highlight because we keep watching them. We keep watching UGA beat Baker Mayfield in each one of the clips. This USC team beat Cal, who was ranked number 7th in the country at the time. That is Steve Smith Jr. again. Yes, that is Aaron Rodgers. He also had Marshawn Lynch in the backfield playing with him. This top-ranked USC team came out and beat up Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch to keep their number 1 ranking en route to back-to-back national championship games. And in true Aaron Rodgers fashion, that was first down. This is second down. Sack them. Third down. And you see they're only down by 6 points. He's in the red zone. Can't get it done. Bad throw. There it is. One more time. Aaron Rodgers, 4th down. That's why LaFleur kicked the field goal, because Aaron Rodgers has proved that he could not get it done. The USC squad was a killer. Lindell White, you remember that guy. He looked like fat Carmelo Anthony. He was a killer. He actually was a starting running back over Reggie Bush in 2004.
Yeah.
I mean, they split carries, but Lindell was RB1. So, I mean, the squad was too deep. When you think about a team that Reggie didn't even start.
Yeah.
It's insane. But beating Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch is way better than any Oklahoma Baker Mayfield highlight you got.
Oh, okay. Whatever you say with this little homer battle here.
I mean, that's your team too. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah. I know, Fees. I'm just going along with you. All right. Number 1 highlight here. Nick Chubb. Look, Fees. Not against Oklahoma. Nice hurdle right over the Missouri defender. Super clean.
Missouri?
Beautiful. Or not Missouri. Was it Missouri? Excuse you, making me think it's not Mizzou.
Like, who are they?
Yeah, Mizzou, SEC team. Nice play. We didn't have to say it had to be ranked on the pedigree. We're talking about highlights. And the Rose Bowl was clearly the biggest game for the Dogs that year. They rolled in the title game, did all but win the national championship game due to Tua Tagovailoa and whatever happened in between the years for everybody. But yeah, beautiful hurdle by Nick Chubb. A lot of Nick Chubb, a lot of Sony Michel in this 2017 year. But again, when we, the original question to set up this versus battle was, what do you think your favorite college football team is to not win the title game? Mine immediately flipped to 2017 Dogs.
That wasn't the question.
That's what you asked me.
No, I said it was your favorite team. That was the next question.
How you gonna do me like that?
If it was to not win, I would have.
Hell no.
If it was not win, I wouldn't have taken 2004 because they actually did win.
Oh man,
that wouldn't even make sense.
Okay.
But the last highlight is the 55-19 drubbing of Oklahoma, who was also 12-0 in a national championship. McCoy, touchdown. Let's go. Interception. Let's turn this back around. Touchdown. Garrett. It was just a straight onslaught. Interceptions, touchdowns all over the place. Defense was rolling. Offense was rolling. They stopped everything. Then you see Reggie doing Reggie. Because, there's not going to be an SC game from 04 or 05 that doesn't have a Reggie highlight in it.
Of course.
I mean, look at how this man runs. Cuts up. Should have been gone here. They tripped him up. He slid like 15 yards because he was running that fast. And then Lindell White with the exclamation point. 55. Ridiculous. One of the most disgusting national championship game wins you've ever seen. And he hit the Dion in the end zone. You can't touch the 04 USC national championship team highlights back to back. Y'all weigh in the comments. Whose highlights were better?
Yeah, where
y'all
is
rocking
Wes?
with USC or y'all rocking with UGA? Let us know in the comments. Yeah, we don't know where Wes is, but Wes usually doesn't come until the second half.
Yeah, that is very true. Usually the end of the second hour, about 9:30 or so.
Yeah, I mean, we are at the top of the hour. So it is 9 o'clock. We're about to go ahead and throw this thing to Mike Beasley one more time. And when we come back, we've got plenty more heat from you. Errol Spence Jr. just had a fight. We still have a few more topics that we haven't gotten to, so we might ride back around for them. But hey, we got plenty of heat for you. Y'all keep it locked. It's Petty Sports Wednesday night.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, like Famous Facts Feast just said, it's a whole lot of show left. 1 hour to be exact. Thank you for tuning in. Like you do every week, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Famous Facts Fees, and our guy Adam Lewis right here. We appreciate it, man. All brought to you by Pulse 880 Radio. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Pulse 880 Radio, the hottest, newest internet radio station here in Atlanta. Just type that in and hit the QR code on the screen, if you will. You can just see how you can tune in to the Pulse 880 radio station. 24/7 music, soft rock, jazz, gospel, hip-hop, urban, R&B, you name it. It's there. It's in the mix. Just tune in and check it out. Go to your favorite podcast platform of preference. iHeart, Google, Spotify, Apple, you know what I'm saying? They all over the place. Type in Petty Sports. Listen to some of the previously aired shows there. And this show will be up in a couple of days, I guess. And, share it with your friends. Share the link, you know what I'm saying? And thank you for everybody that's sharing the link for the show tonight. Go to YouTube and subscribe to the page over there at Petty Sports. Petty Sports with a Z, of course. Go and subscribe, hit the notification bell, so whenever the show goes hot, you will be notified right away. You won't miss a beat. And thank you for everybody that's been subscribing over on the Facebook Fedbook page and driving the numbers over there. But we'd like to really do the same on the YouTube side, all right? So we greatly appreciate you guys tuning in and sharing the links and keeping the chat room live. Jamila, Miss Sharper, everybody, Chris, you know what I'm saying? Hey, everybody, we love you guys. Could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with us. Go to KINGZBroadcasting.com, spend some money, hit that donate button at the bottom of the home screen page. KINGZBroadcasting.com, that's Kings with a Z. You know what I'm saying? And you can help support the show that way with your monetary efforts, and we greatly appreciate that. And you can buy some merchandise over there as well. Hats, T-shirts, mugs, tumblers, you name it. So just go over there and show some love. We appreciate that. Call in 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. We've had 2 callers tonight. You know what I'm saying? Everybody you got something to say. We want to hear from you. That's how you can be a part of the show and get it off your chest. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, we appreciate it, man. Support black business. Support black business. Support black businesses. Because we do. ATL, back to the regular schedule program.
Appreciate that, Mike. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. 9:05 p.m. Eastern time here on Petty Sports. Again, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with the best sports podcast in Atlanta, Georgia. Coming at you from every possible angle, as you see there, episode 56. Season 2 is alive and well. Hit the QR code on the screen. Every platform that we're on, every piece of content we drop, anywhere. Again, it's not where Petty Sports is at. It's about where you catch your content. Chris G, thank you for the call tonight. Cher, thank you for being in the chat as always. Foley on the YouTube. Fees, be nice about straight talk, by the way, bro. That's what I got. Sometimes that's what, we don't want to be out here paying for these certain types of phone plans. We play the phone off, take it over to the carrier, brother.
That's what happens when you use those carriers and you try to call into the show. Your service sucks and then we can't hear you.
Get on some Wi-Fi calling, Foley. It's okay. We appreciate Foley calling into the show as well. Jamila, everybody that's hopping in. We got so much left to get into, so let's not waste any time, ladies and gentlemen. Errol Spence Jr. has unified his titles with a 10th round TKO over Yordenis Ugas. But last time we saw Ugas in the ring, he was bullying Manny Pacquiao. Now that Errol Spence Jr. has made work of Ugas and clearly one of the top boxers in the world, Does Bud Crawford, without question, Feast, now have to be Spence's next fight?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you heard the post-fight interview with Errol Spence, after he got finished talking about, like, he really bigged up Ugas to let everyone know that he's like, yo, he was a very formidable opponent, and he didn't want to just take a tune-up fight with someone that he knew he could beat. He wanted to fight a real fighter before he stepped in the ring with him. He said he wants to fight Bud Crawford next, and he, in his own words, said, I'm going to take his shit too, because he was talking about his belt. That's what he said. He straight up called Bud Crawford out. He said that's the fight that he wants next. I mean, we look at what he did against you guys. I mean, that's the most active we've ever seen Errol Spence in a fight. Yeah. I've never seen him throw that many punches before. I mean, he threw 784 punches, and he landed at a 27.6% clip. So, I mean, he was actually connecting to me a lot more than you guys. I mean, he landed over 100 more punches than he did.
All right.
I mean, the jabs were pretty much a wash. Neither one of them's jab got working at all. But the power punches were the major difference. I mean, he really went to work on the body.
Right.
I mean, 30% of the punches that he landed were power punches to the body. I mean, he ate him alive on the inside to try to take some of the steam out of him. Right. But what we saw in the 5th and the 7th round were a couple of flashes by you guys where he really caught Spence and had him rocking. I mean, he punched him into the ropes one good time to the point where it looked like Spence may have been out on his feet. I mean, he said it was an instance where his mouth guard flew out of his mouth. He looked down at it, and then he got hit 3 or 4 times while he was looking at it. And then when he put his hands back up, the ref had already intervened to stop it so he could actually get his mouth guard. Yeah. But regardless of what the purpose was, it happened again in 2 rounds later to where he really looked like he was rocked. Like his legs got a little weak, and he was out there struggling just a little bit. I mean, Spence never stopped the pressure. Even when he looked like he was struggling, he was still throwing punches and applying the pressure. So, I mean, he did his job. He came out and he fought a really good fight. But the fact that Ugas was able to actually connect with him with those couple of blows the way he was able to really actually concerns me in a potential Bud Crawford matchup, because Bud Crawford is a far superior opponent than Ugas. Yep. And he hits harder. He's a stronger puncher. He's a grittier fighter. He is going to try to bully Spence. Yep. And if he's able to land the same type of punches that you guys did, then I think it's very well possible that Bud Crawford will actually put Spence on the canvas. Yep. Like he might actually put him to sleep. I don't know if Spence actually wants that smoke. I like Spence, and I really, before this fight, I would have taken Spence over Crawford for this fight until I just saw what I saw. I don't think he wants that smoke. Bud Crawford is going to knock Errol Spence out when he fights him.
Yeah, that is a possibility, Fees. And, you know, going back to the question of does Bud Crawford have to be next for Errol Spence Jr., I have to double it with you there as well. I think it has to be, because when you talk about boxing and you talk about one of the sports where athletes almost get, you know, exactly what they ask for, especially when it comes to combat sports. That's one of the things that really brings the fans in, makes you get the sales, get the big ticket pay-per-view, you know, bring all the eyes in and make it one of the most legendary fights. I mean, you know, for crying out loud, what was it? Logan Paul and Mayweather was a top 10 fight of all time. Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley was one of those top fights as well. It's because that's what the people ask for. It's because that's what they want to see. And we're talking about two, you know, faux boxing fighters out there. We're not talking about actual, you know, and I know some people are going to jump in there and say, oh, well, the Paul brothers have established a great brand. Yes, they have. Okay, Jake is borderline a boxer, maybe. Let's actually get him into the ring with someone. Don't come up be about Logan, though. We know what Logan is. Back to the original question, though. When you talk about Bud hopping in a ring with an Errol Spence Jr. that's 28-0, that does have 22 knockouts in his career, the fact that he's got some of the greatest power in boxing that we've seen, the hand speed, the elusiveness, the smarts when it comes to being in the ring. But Bud Crawford is that guy. We know that Bud Crawford hits a lot harder than Ugas. We know that Bud Crawford has a great stride. We know that he protects himself well. He is overall a better boxer and a better pedigree of a fighter than Ugas was. And all respect to Spence saying, hey, you know, like you mentioned there, Fees, I don't want to have it be a tune-up fight. I want to get in against actually someone that will make me better. But you obviously want to walk before you crawl, and you want to crawl before you get up. Or, excuse me, you want to crawl before you walk, and you want to walk before you run. So, you know, stepping into the ring with a guy like Bud Crawford, I could see, and I hate to think of that, but when you look at the size of Spence and you look at Crawford, even if he's able to adjust the weight and actually be able to shift over to make it comfortable for him, I do think that Bud Crawford is a harder hitter. And even though Tyson Fury kind of did put him in a space where you and I talked about where does he need to go next, am I thinking of the right fighter? Excuse me. No, I'm thinking of, Tyson Fury fought,
Wilder.
Yeah, Wilder, excuse me. Totally thinking of the wrong fight, excuse me. But yeah, when you take a look at Bud Crawford, seeing how he's worked through some of the last few fights, and when you talk about Errol Spence coming up, it would be a massive fight that, yes, it does have to be next, and yes, he should get it, but we don't know how that's going to play out. Is Spence ready to take that leap? Can he actually hang with some of those guys? I understand. I see the numbers. I've seen how he's acted, and again, one of the most active fights we've seen, but stepping into the ring with a guy like Bud Crawford will definitely be something that might bring some reservation for some people. We don't know if we don't know how the turnout would be. Obviously, rather, let's wait for it to get on the pay-per-view. Fees, I know we rolled over a little bit earlier. Do we want to hit these Gilmore and Watkins, or just kind of hit the draft and then swing back? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'd say we're gonna ride with Gilmore.
Okay, cool. Stefan Gilmore signed with the Indianapolis Colts. Not traded over to them. Whatever the case was, obviously picked up out of the market. We got another home for Stefan Gilmore here. Obviously, the Colts bringing in Matt Ryan, having a defense that they have already, and it's just going to help them even more with the Darius Leonard, with the pass rush that they have. Are you a fan of Stefan Gilmore now playing with his third NFL team in as many seasons?
I mean, this looks to be a good fit for him. I mean, he has been injury-ridden for the past couple of seasons, which, I mean, that's why he didn't get another contract with New England. He was hurt when he left out of there.
Right.
He was hurt for the majority of his tenure in Carolina. If he is healthy walking into the Colts, I mean, the Colts were 19th in the league against the pass, so he absolutely is an asset for them. He's better than anything they have out there.
Yep.
I mean, especially the way that the AFC has gone with all of the wide receivers just stacking up in the AFC West and the AFC North. And then between Buffalo and Miami, which you got over there in the East, they're going to need corners. So you need a lot of corners, because all of the teams that you play against in the AFC are going to throw the football. So, I mean, he's a great addition for them. So, I think that was an excellent move on their part to go pick him up. So, I mean, basically, him out there in Carolina, that was like a spot for him to just go out there to die. I mean, a 2-year, $23 million deal, that's not that much for a corner, especially a corner that can be as good as he is. I mean, he's a former Defensive Player of the Year. So, I mean, if they get anything close to what he can be, then he's absolutely a super asset for this Indianapolis Colts team.
I got to agree. Stefan Gilmore, we know he's one of the premier corners in the NFL, and even though, of course, he has fallen off a little bit over the last couple of years with the durability, Indy, I don't believe, went out on a leg, really. Do you know the contract numbers off the top of your head? Do you know what they paid him?
Yeah, so it's $23 million, $14 guaranteed.
Okay.
For 2 years.
For 2 years? That's about middle of the pack for a corner. We've obviously seen some guys out there. I don't remember who just got signed to a major. I think it was corner for the Browns. Yeah, Denzel Ward, I believe. Yeah, thinking of the most recent cornerback payday that we've had, rather. So $10 million for a corner a year, obviously, $14 million overall for someone that's played about to the pedigree of Stefan Gilmore. I would say that's fair, but when you put him, when you put his veteran leadership in with a Darius Leonard, who's been able to mimic the likes of a Fred Warner, of a Bobby Wagner, and even go look at the numbers from turnovers, passes defended, whatever it may be. When you look at Darius Leonard, and now you bring in a Stefan Gilmore next to him, and you've got some of those other secondary pieces, and you've got some of those pass rushers on that Indianapolis line, they're a team every year that I've said they've always got the talent to make a run, but will they have the key pieces to actually be able to? They have a foundational piece in the secondary to where you're not really depending on, a young Malik Hooker or Rock Yassin or Xavier Rhodes that you're trying to potentially rejuvenate, from the Vikings. So bringing in Gilmore, I think, was a great move. It's just going to add more to how can Indianapolis really stop those teams on the defensive side of the ball, because that's going to be something that you really have to focus on in the AFC. And I think, Indianapolis kind of thought about that as everyone coming over, all the pass happiness that they're going to have. Now let's switch over a little bit to a team that really, really needed a wide receiver. And I think this was, I wouldn't say a bad trade, but definitely an average grab at best. You got Sammy Watkins now teaming up with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Are you a fan of this signing, Fees?
I mean, that's like the most meh signing I've seen in the offseason. I mean, Sammy Watkins has one 1,000-yard season, and that came in 2015 with the Bills.
Yep.
He's not been that guy for so long. Like, I mean, I don't understand why people are actually excited about this. Like, oh, Aaron Rodgers got another weapon. He's not a weapon.
Right.
He's done nothing. Last year, he went for 394. Year before, 421. 673, 519. He's not even close to scratching 1,000 yards.
Right.
And 1,000 yards isn't even a standard. We were just talking about Deebo Samuel. He had 1,400 yards receiving, and we were like, he's not in the top tier of wide receivers. This dude didn't even get 400 yards.
Yep.
Deebo had as many yards rushing last season as Sammy Watkins had receiving. And that was in addition to his 1,400 yards.
Right.
This signing means absolutely nothing. Green Bay's streak of winning 13 games, done.
Yeah.
No way they're winning another 13.
Yeah, they lost a lot of firepower, you know, like we said, whether it was from a Devontae Adams to a Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I understand that they have Alan Lazard in there, but we don't know about his health. Again, Sammy Watkins, you just went through all the numbers. And it's unfortunate to see because we know Sammy Watkins coming out of college was a great receiver, you know, had a lot of potential. And, you know, we really, well, you know, not you and I, we weren't working together yet, but a lot of people really, you know, around the league and when they were scouting him coming in thought that Sammy Watkins could be one of the best receivers out of that draft class. But unfortunately, he just, whether it wasn't he got the chance, never had the consistency, didn't have the talent. Again, you're talking about a team that just let some key guys go, and it's not really looking good bringing in such a weak downgrade like Sammy Watkins. And you would like to see an aggressive move for DK Metcalf, for Deebo Samuel, for some of these guys out there that are going to want to be moving. And you can just hope and pray as a Green Bay fan that they're more aggressive than this because of how it could potentially play out just throughout the NFC unfolding and throughout all of these teams getting better. Green Bay has definitely been a concern for this offseason. But we're going to go ahead and roll right over, ladies and gentlemen, into the first round mock draft. We know that the draft is coming out next Thursday, and we'll be putting out a couple of posts here. We will have Pimpin' Ken live in studio with Fees and I for a 3-hour live special draft show. Going to be insane. We'll have segments. We'll go over picks and we'll review everything. We'll have some trivia for the guys. It's going to be great. Zoom callers, everybody is welcome. Let's go ahead and get into the first round mock draft. Fees. Only picks 1 through 16 today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll bring you 16 through 32 next week. Kind of try to split it up. We know these things can get really lengthy. All right, Fees. Number 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars take.
Oh, well, the mock draft segment for this one is going to be the Adam segment. He's got your mock draft ready to roll for you. I think every pick I made last year was wrong. It almost doesn't even make sense to even do another one. It's been terrible. The mock drafts are just like, this is like the guessing hour.
The guessing hour. Yeah, now we say why they have mock draft 17.2.3. All right, picks 1 through 16, NFL mock draft. Number 1, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will draft Kayvon Thibodeau, insane edge rusher. I think he is the meanest, fastest, just most unguardable edge rusher in this draft. It's kind of crazy when you look at his size. He really looks like he could be a linebacker, maybe even a safety coming off the edge, but I think he's the most explosive, meanest, most unguardable defensive lineman edge, in this 2022 NFL draft. Number 2, the Detroit Lions take defensive lineman / edge, however y'all want to justify them. We know the players we're talking about here. Aiden Hutchinson, of course, another big, massive edge rusher in this draft. I think he has got one of the best sizes. I believe he's 6'7", over 220 pounds. Absolutely great strength, great speed. And, you know, when you take a look at Kayvon and you take a look at Aiden definitely has the size on him, but I don't think he has the speed. He might have the edge in strength, but I feel like when we talk about some of the premier edge rushers today, along with that strength is speed as well. Speed, of course, one of the most raw traits in the NFL today. Number 3, the Houston Texans will take defensive lineman again, Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. This is a very, very trench-heavy draft, as we know, especially on the defensive side of the football, ladies and gentlemen. Trayvon Walker, the largest, maybe the strongest defensive lineman, edge rusher coming out of this draft here. We saw what he did at Georgia. We saw how relentless he was coming out of the SEC, going up against those premier O-line. lines, being able to do work on an Auburn, on an Alabama, all the powerhouses that we have in the SEC. And when you bring a defensive lineman out of that conference, just give you a little more of that confidence to jump in and, be willing to bet on him. Speaking of betting on a player coming out of a fantastic school, at number 4, the New York Jets will take defensive back Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU. I don't even know if I really need to go on about Stingley here. We know about DBU. We know what Stingley has done in his time at Louisiana State University, as some of us like to get technical and call it. But I know some people might say, where is Sauce Gardner? Where are some of these other guys? Where is a Kyle Hamilton? I think when you talk about the Jets truly having a need in this draft, take a look at their secondary. It's definitely always been one of the downfalls of them. Now at number 5, another Georgia defensive lineman coming off the board is the New York Giants will take Jordan Davis, another ridiculously insane, relentless pass rusher in this draft. And we know that the Giants need trench work. They're still building a foundation. They're not sold on any part of their offense. Maybe the wide receiver room, but they could still go grab another one as well. Don't think receivers will be taken this high, so I am going to stick to Jordan Davis going here for the New York Giants. Now, maybe the craziest pick of the first round of the NFL draft, the Carolina Panthers will select quarterback Malik Willis out of Liberty. And a lot of people are going to be mind blown about this one, to say the least, because you've got a Sam Darnold. We've seen that they tried to maybe play something into the Deshaun Watson case. We don't know if they might be a true contender for Baker. So they're just going to say, screw it. They know Darnold's not the answer. They bring in a Malik Willis who has a lot of the Trey Lance, maybe not characteristics, but kind of the same story, has a lot of potential, super high ceiling. But what is he truly going to be when he's playing around others that are truly, living up to the type of talent that he's presenting on the table and how competitive he's being? But they're going to be the first team to pull the trigger here, take a chance, and take a quarterback. The Giants are back on the board after picking at number 5. They will be back around at number 7 to take the first offensive lineman of the draft. Offensive lineman Evan Neal out of Alabama. SEC lineman, had a lot of duties protecting his running backs, had a lot of time being able to adjust on the line and working with the center to call some of those plays, backing up a Mac Jones, being able to give Mac Jones time to throw to a Devontae Smith, being there with Bryce Young as well. We've seen time and time again where Evan Neal has played big. He'll serve the Giants well. Again, still building that foundation. They have to make a move for it. The Atlanta Falcons will come right behind them at number 8. They need a lot of trench work. They need a lot of defense. But given who will be on the board without a Thibodeau up front, hopefully to bring them home like some were banking on there. Offensive lineman Ikem Ekwonu, the second best O-line in offensive lineman, in my opinion. Someone maybe go with Trevor Penning. It really just depends on what you want out of your offensive lineman. The Falcons, no doubt, need to grab some sort of foundation and trench work within this draft. The time to trade the pick, of course, was last year. We went over it time and time again. One of the best drafts I've ever had the pleasure of covering and working with on Petty Sports, to be able to pull the show together. Falcons do take O-lineman here at number 8. Number 9, the Seahawks. Again, 3 straight O-linemen will come off the board. They'll take offensive lineman Trevor Penning. Wanted to go with Charles Cross, but I think I'll take Trevor Penning here. Again, one of the higher ranked prospects out there. Great size. Could be a little bit better at being agile and actually moving from side to side with his offensive lineman coverage. But nonetheless, we know the Seahawks need to be focusing on trenches and defense. So they'll start building that foundation that they've never truly had for a quarterback like Russ. A guy like Drew Lock coming in is definitely going to need some protection. He's not going to be able to create a play like Russell Wilson did. Now, the Jets are back on the clock after picking 4th overall. They will come in at number 10 and be the first team to take a wide receiver. Jamison Williams from the University of Alabama off of the board. They're going to want a guy who knows who they know has played in the SEC, who they know has played in big moments. And yes, although he is coming off of the injury against the Bulldogs in the national championship, he's tried, he's true, he's been under Saban, he's been under a Malarkey. He totally understands how things are going to conduct. And instead of maybe going for a Drake London or a Garrett Wilson, tried and true SEC receivers, I think this is what that New York is going to be leaning on here. Number 11, the Washington Commanders will take defensive back Ahmad Sauce Gardner out of the University of Cincinnati. Great press coverage type of cornerback. Don't know if the bigger physical receivers in the league will give him a problem. He has given up 0 touchdowns in his time at the University of Cincinnati. And he was asked, hey, how are you going to feel when you give up a touchdown in the NFL? His response was, I don't think I am. I don't know if I ever will. The Washington Commanders definitely need someone to kind of bring that defensive pedigree back around. They've got some offensive weapons. They've got some defensive guys in the secondary, but bringing in a Sauce Gardner, bringing in a guy like this who, overall is going to have high energy, is coming off a great college career, I think he will be a solid fit here for the Washington Commanders. Number 12, the Minnesota Vikings will take safety Kyle Hamilton. They need someone to get out there with Harrison Smith. They need someone to back up Eric Kendricks. Danielle Hunter is obviously a great player, but they need another young, fresh set of legs in there because all those guys that I mentioned, they're veterans. There's miles on the tread. They're kind of falling off each year. And as the highest rated safety on the board and one of the highest rated secondary players in the NFL, the Vikings will take their chances on him to kind of, again, just like the Washington Commanders, almost said the football team, bring around that defensive pedigree. 4 more picks here on the mock drafts, ladies and gentlemen. Stick with me. Appreciate y'all. Call in 678-871-9602. The QR code that pops up on the screen is every platform for Petty Sports to be at. I know y'all are all in the comments. Number 13, the Texans are back on the board after picking just 10 picks earlier at the 3 spot. They will take center Tyler Linderbaum. Needed to build that foundation. Davis Mills is already in there. They could have went to pick another quarterback, but I don't think they would go quarterback in back-to-back years if they didn't really see something in Davis Mills, because if anything, you hold off last year, you pick a quarterback this year based on where you're at, but obviously obviously, the draft playing out told us that they needed to go grab an offensive lineman. Tyler Linderbaum will be able to build the middle of that line, have a strong interior, and overall just try to get some sort of foundation built there for the Texans. Number 14, the Baltimore Ravens take wide receiver Drake London, the largest receiver in the draft, one of the fastest receivers in the draft. Now, he could play better on the routes. He could have a little bit better of execution after the catch and, maybe be more agile, because as we want to compare him kind of to a DK Metcalf with the build, with the speed, DK isn't necessarily amazing at changing speed and changing his direction. And we could see some of those similarities here with Drake London, but nonetheless, coming out of USC, being one of the top-ranked receivers on this board, and going into a pass-hungry system, pass-catcher-hungry system like the Ravens, next to a big guy like Mark Andrews, I don't know if Baltimore will really be able to go wrong here. At number 15, the Philadelphia Eagles will take wide receiver Chris Olave out of Ohio State. And we saw what Chris Olave did in college, obviously. His routes can be good. His speed can be great. His hands can be great as well. But when you talk about the Eagles, like you mentioned, Fees, one of those guys coming in, man, I can't remember the receiver. Deebo Samuel over to Philadelphia. Bringing in a younger guy like Chris Olave with a guy like Devontae Smith, who is younger in the rookie, is a sophomore now in the NFL, coming out of last year's class and had a overall good rookie campaign. We see that Jalen Hurts is improving. Maybe Nick Sirianni could be better than we think with the Eagles making the playoffs. And then to round it out, the New Orleans Saints at the 16th overall pick will take wide receiver Garrett Wilson, another good receiver in this draft. I wish that they would have, the pickings of maybe a Drake London or a Jameson Williams, but I really don't believe those two guys will be on the board. Maybe they'll get Olave. Maybe they'll get Garrett Wilson. Who actually knows by the time everything does unfold here? But the Saints, without question, need a wide receiver. They don't know about Michael Thomas. They can maybe go for a running back as well, but wide receiver has to be a focus. Jameis needs someone comfortable, maybe even a tight end. But, when you look at how drafts roll out, it's not, when the Saints were maybe looking at a tight end, looking at a running back, it isn't such a rich draft in those positions. So hopefully, compared to last year, they want to leap and take a wide receiver. And that bumps us up perfectly into the 9:30 hour. I need a damn bottle of water after that. Geez, 16 players, 16 picks, 16 teams. Whew. All right, Bill, over to you. We got half an hour left on this show, and we are rolling. Take it away, brother.
Rolling. Roll high. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in like always. You know what I mean? Over here for the Petty Sports 8 o'clock edition every Wednesday, all brought to you by Pulse 880 Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Do us a big solid. Go over to the YouTube page on Petty Sports and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so anytime the show goes hot, you will be notified and won't miss a beat. All right, so go subscribe, help drive those numbers, and we would greatly appreciate that. Go to kingsbroadcasting.com, spend some money, buy some merch. Hit the donate button over there at the bottom of the homepage. That's at kingsbroadcasting.com. And, support the Pulse 880 internet radio station. It's a 24/7 station. And we're pretty sure that you will enjoy the content that's been programmed over there, because we do. Thank you for everybody that's been in the chat room tonight. You know, it's at the bottom of the hour. When you're at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. So stay tuned for the rest of the show tonight with Adam and Famous Facts Fees doing what they do at the table, all right? 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the conversation tonight. We'd love to hear from you guys. We've had 2 brave callers tonight, and you see nobody bites over here. You know what I'm saying? Just come correct, and it's all good. You know what I mean? Yeah. Go to your favorite podcast platform of preference, iHeart, Google, Spotify, Apple, and listen to the Petty Sports shows over there. Share the link. Everybody that's been in the chat room tonight, man, y'all been killing it like always over on the Fed book. Thank you for keep the numbers up. Thank you for sharing the show. If you haven't, what you waiting on? Hey, TL Hope. You know what I'm saying? Support black business, support black business, support black businesses, cause we do. Back to the regular scheduled program.
Thank you so much, Mike. 9:32 here on Petty Sports Wednesday night, Eastern time. We on the East Coast here, 9:32. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. Subscribe to the show. Better yet, I can save so many words and just direct you over there to that beautiful little QR code in the corner of your screen. Every platform, every piece of content, everywhere we are present, you will find us there. Hop in the chat. Call the show, 678-871-9602. We appreciate everyone tonight jumping in. We're going to go ahead and dive into our NFC North season team-by-team review. We might be able to get through this at a good time, and if so, we'll swing back around and maybe have another segment to finish out the show tonight. We'll start, of course, we have the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions. We'll give you our preseason takes, how we thought they stacked up walking into the year, give them a grade for their overall performance, and then also give you a biggest need for the current NFL team that is under discussion. Fees, I'll start out with you. For the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers. How did you feel about them before? What is their preseason grade, and what is their biggest need walking into next year?
I'm giving them a grade of a C for what they actually did last season. I expected them to be what they were this year. It was another 13-win season, which this is 3 consecutive seasons of 13 wins. The 2 prior seasons, they went to the NFC Championship game and lost. This year, they lost in the divisional round, so they didn't even make it as far. They got an early playoff exit, didn't make it where they usually do. It was another Aaron Rodgers MVP season that fell short. And as far as like their needs, they need a wide receiver. They need multiple wide receivers. Sammy Watkins ain't it. Randall Cobb ain't it. They don't have any wide receivers, basically. They got a couple of forgotten about second tier. Maybe like second tier might actually be optimistic in describing Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb. They don't have wide receivers. They don't have tight ends. All they've got is Aaron Rodgers. They have limited weapons to work with. And like those 2 guys are aged. I mean, I think a C might actually be generous. I give them a C just for the mere fact that they did make the playoffs. They did make it to the second round, but they underachieved. That team should have they should have at least made 1 Super Bowl in the last 3 years. 2 MVPs, 2 NFC Championship game appearances, and that's all you've got to show for all of that. And you gave Aaron Rodgers this massive contract to keep him there when he was over there crying and complaining about leaving after you drafted another quarterback who clearly is not panning out. You can't get rid of him. Jordan Love is not that guy. So, the Green Bay Packers, they need a lot of help. I mean, it's actually pretty bad. But it's a testament to Aaron Rodgers and what he's actually been doing since he's been in Green Bay. He's out there. He's really just always worried about his passer rating. And he's, for the most part, outside of the 2010 season, he disappears in the playoffs. Same thing you watch when I showed you the USC highlights when he was at Cal and he played against the Trojans. Same thing. They were ranked number 7 in the country, came down to him at the end of the game, couldn't get it done. We've seen him do that for at least a decade now in the NFL since he's been deemed the starter since 2008. That's just what it is for the Packers. They're going to have to live through the rest of Aaron Rodgers' career before they really get to actually rebuild and try to bring that team back to the ways that they are expecting. I mean, they got 1 championship out of Brett Favre, one out of Aaron Rodgers, and that's all they're getting. They're getting nothing else till Aaron Rodgers decides to leave. And that's really just a sad reality for the Green Bay Packers. I don't expect them to even be remotely as good as they were for the last 3 seasons coming into this year because he has no one to throw the ball to. And you know what happens when Aaron Rodgers doesn't have wide receivers? He checks down the entire game because he's more concerned about his passer rating than winning football games.
Tough reality there. Tough reality for the Packers. Yeah, they're definitely going to take a step back. No Devontae, no MVS. Sammy Watkins. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We are about to witness a new era or style of Aaron Rodgers, and it's going to come after he has no weapons. And I think it's going to be interesting because Russell Wilson just upgraded. Josh Allen is getting better every year. Like, who knows how it might play out for Aaron Rodgers. But speaking of these Green Bay Packers, walking into the season, I said that everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to return. There was obviously major uproar whether he was going to come back. At the time when I made the take, he had actually just renewed his country club membership. So I was pretty in the field that he was going to come back over. But the biggest thing is when they drafted Eric Stokes over Tyson Campbell, I said it better be worth it. It wasn't necessarily true. Tyson Campbell, I wouldn't say he might have had a better year with Jacksonville because Jacksonville obviously to Green Bay. But I think if you put Tyson Campbell in Green Bay into a clearly better defensive scheme in the secondary, he would have done better in that aspect. And I even mentioned they're going to have an exit in the divisional round. They're not going to go to the NFC title game. I think they're going to be exposed. They were exposed in 2 NFC title games. They were exposed in the divisional after literally being losing to a team that did not score an offensive touchdown. But I did say they'd win a division and that the defense would be the weakness, which all panned out pretty clearly for the Green Bay Packers. I have to give them a B for the season, though. Can't give them an A because that means that would have meant they were superior. I'll give them a B. They were average. They were a team that was good throughout a good part of the year. But did anybody, and I never understood why people had Green Bay in so high in the rankings, why they actually had them going to the NFC title game, going to the Super Bowl. I never bought in on Green Bay like that because of Aaron Rodgers, because of how LaFleur played in the big moments, because of how the defense consistently does not set them up for success. So they're going to be. They're average. They were still an elite team, so I can't give them a C. But they're definitely not getting an A because they were stopped in the divisional round. In terms of biggest needs for the Green Bay Packers, obviously a wide receiver. You lose, 2 of your main guys, especially Devontae Adams, the best receiver in the league. I also think you need to take a look at another tight end. Add an element to that pass catcher, to those pass catchers. I understand a Bob Tonyan. I understand some of the other names that are obviously out there with Green Bay, but a true tight end presence, whether it's a trade. I don't think the draft this year for tight ends is extremely deep. And then, of course, you want to look at a defensive lineman as well. Zadarius Smith did get out of town. You don't only have Preston Smith now when obviously Kenny Clark is there to help out on the line. But again, bringing in that third guy, bringing in that fourth guy to keep it consistent in the NFC North with the pass rush, I think is going to be something key, even if we're looking past the division when you're getting deeper into the playoffs. Now we're on the Minnesota Vikings fees, preseason takes, grade, and their biggest needs walking into next year.
Man, I didn't see the Minnesota Vikings as being a threat. I mean, they're a decent football team, and as we covered coming into the season, it was really going to weigh heavily upon when the games were played because they've got to be the most odd team in the entire league as to where Kirk Cousins, he balls out when they play 1 o'clock games. Like, he's terrible on primetime.
Yep.
So if it's a primetime game, you can almost pencil it in that the Minnesota Vikings are going to lose, and it doesn't even matter who they're playing. They're just bad when it comes to primetime. I mean, finishing at 8-9, I figured they would be right around there, possibly have a chance to sneak in. Like, I did not have them making the playoffs, which they did not make. But, I mean, I gave them a C overall as the grade just because the expectations weren't that high. Didn't have big expectations, and they didn't exceed them. I mean, they're outside of them maybe getting a wild card. They had a decent year. That's what you can expect out of Kirk Cousins. I mean, as far as the needs for the Minnesota Vikings, they need Dalvin Cook to be healthy. When he plays, they actually have a legitimate shot at beating really good football teams, but they also need another wide receiver to complement Justin Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson, despite playing his whole short career with Kirk Cousins, has been putting up amazing numbers. I mean, you can imagine if he didn't have all the attention and have to beat double teams all game, every game for his entire career, just how effective he could be. Or if you brought another receiver in, how good he would be with Justin Jefferson getting all the attention. I mean, they put somebody on the other side of the ball that would actually that would greatly improve their offensive chances, but they need DBs. I mean, I think between them looking for a complimentary wide receiver for Justin Jefferson, picking up some DBs, they should actually be able to address these needs in the draft. And what they'll definitely need to be looking to do sooner than later is bringing in another quarterback to groom behind Kirk Cousins, because, I mean, unfortunately, he's got a lot of time left in him, but he's not that guy. You're going to have to bring someone in to groom him to eventually take his spot and move Kirk into a backup role, because, I mean, we've seen his ceiling is maybe the divisional round. He's not getting you any farther than that. Even if you put all the pieces around him, he's not the kind of quarterback that's actually going to take you to a bowl. He's just not that good. He's serviceable. Yeah. He got his contracts. He got his 2 years of being franchised. He's clearly gotten paid. It's about time to start transitioning Kirk Cousins into a backup quarterback role and looking for someone who could actually get you over the hump.
Yep.
That would completely change the fortunes of that franchise.
Agreed. And I'd been saying it for years. Cousins is serviceable, no doubt, but they need at least a top 15 type of quarterback in there. And we know Cousins can play like that on any day, but I had been calling for Matt Ryan to go to either the Colts or the Vikings. Clearly, he got into a better situation potentially with the Colts. Vikings might have been just as good as well. Little update here. So Boston is up by 10 points on Brooklyn with a minute to go, threatening to take the 2-0 lead. Insane. This game has been back and forth. We knew it was going to be a great series. But now for these Minnesota Vikings. So originally walking into the year, I said that Justin Jefferson would not need to be, but I thought he was going to be a top 5 wide receiver after the record-breaking rookie year. 1,400 yards, smashing Randy Moss's record, smashing Anquan Bolden's record of before. And I did think that Kirk Cousins was going to continue to play well, which he did for the most part. He wasn't a fantastic quarterback, but he played well enough in the system. Wasn't horrible, had decent yardage, touchdown passes to interception ratio, and even the year before that, Kirk Cousins actually didn't play horrible either, so I thought he would have continued to play well. They did draft Christian Darrisaw and Wyatt Davis on the offensive line to bolster it, so they kind of did, build up some means there to actually become a top 10 team in the league in sacks given up in good terms, rather, so bottom 10, I guess, however you want to look at it. They were top 10 in not giving sacks up. There we go. Those are the words that I was looking for there. A tough team overall to beat in 2021. And I did think that Mike Zimmer was going to be on the hot seat, which now we do have a new head coach in there for them. And they were going to be a 3rd or 4th place finish at best in the NFC North. When we go on to a grade for Minnesota, I think they were average as well. They'll get a B. We've seen what Minnesota has been for the past couple years. The only true highlight was knocking out my New Orleans Saints in the wild card round of that year's playoffs. Other than that, they have just been an average team that might be a tough team to actually get a W on just because they play so hard. The defensive pedigree, they do have some of the best offensive weapons in the league, but is the nucleus, aka the coaching and the quarterback, good enough to take them to that next level? It's usually not in terms of next level prowess, so I will keep them at a B here. Now, in terms of needs for the Minnesota Vikings, I do think ultimately they need a defensive lineman. Again, when you're looking at the fact that you've got a, Daniil Hunter, you've got a Eric Kendricks, you've got some of these other guys in the second, or not in the secondary, but with your pass rush that are becoming veterans, they're getting older, or they just need new, fresh legs on that team. I believe I even had Minnesota taking, safety Kyle Hamilton. And if they're able to bid, for another potential defensive lineman, another potential edge rusher, or whatever the case may be to supplement that position, I do think it would be in their best interest because you're going to have to get after some of these quarterbacks that are in the NFC North. And overall, with the schedule they have coming their way, with the NFL getting better, upgrading the defensive lineman and the safety will be a must for the Minnesota Vikings. We're on to the Chicago Bears, Fees. Tell me how you feel about them.
Man, the Chicago Bears had a very disappointing season. I mean, with them starting with Andy Dalton, first of all, we're like, why?
Right. Why
did you draft Justin Fields and then bring in Andy Dalton to start him, which he was way worse than any of us thought that he possibly could have been.
Yeah.
But then when you brought Justin Fields in, he was very underwhelming as well. I mean, in 10 starts, he played in 12 games, but he had 10 starts. He threw 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions.
Yep.
I mean, only 1,870 yards passing. I mean, it was pretty bad. The dude was only averaging 155 yards passing per game.
Yep.
An abysmal 73 QB rating. It's like, for all of what we thought Justin Fields could be, it was a terrible rookie campaign.
The 1 net passing yard game. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, like there were so many bad spots on him, and it doesn't seem that he's developing like what we all expected of him. I mean, like I really hope that Justin Fields can turn it around, but they need a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, this team was 27th in points scored, which is damn near last. They were in the bottom half of the league in yards per game. They need wide receivers. They need running backs, but they possibly could need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, they got Andy Dalton out of there, but from what we saw to Justin Fields, I don't know that he actually is the answer either.
Right.
I mean, it's not like, okay, he was a bright spot on a bad team. He was a bad quarterback on a bad team, and all of it looked bad. I'm giving them a D. At 6-11, I don't even know how they actually managed to win 6 games with as bad as that football team was. I expected them to at least be around 9-8, 8-9, to where they were on the cusp of maybe stealing a wild card spot.
Yeah.
But there were no bright spots for him.
Nope.
He was getting sacked a lot. He threw a lot of interceptions, didn't throw many touchdowns, and he didn't even show the explosiveness with his legs. We expected him to be the dual threat to the point where he could free himself up to make easier throws, but he was not able to even do that. So, I'm almost a loss for suggestions for what Chicago needs to do because they really bet the farm on Justin Fields being the player that we all saw at Ohio State, and he has not been that.
Yeah.
They need him to turn a corner, and they need to get him some weapons. So, I mean, at the very least, they can take the onus off themselves to be like, oh, it wasn't because you brought him in and threw him into the fire and didn't give him all the tools and opportunities that he needed to be successful. Get him some wide receivers. Get him something legitimate at running back. Get him weapons. Get him another tight end. Get him something to work with and then see if it actually is him.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to build a foundation around him. And it's not that they haven't bought in on Justin Fields, but again, they really have to get that foundation around him. They got to get the weapons around him. They got to give him something to work with. It starts with the offensive line. It starts with, supplementing Allen Robinson, him being gone. I mean, it starts with a ton, for them to be able, to actually get Justin Fields in a good spot and, just built around more than anything. So for the Chicago Bears, coming in, I was asking myself for the preseason, when does Justin Fields start? When is he going to start? I figured that they could have had it by week 1. But, I thought overall he should start after week 4 more than anything to save the Bears from literally living in quarterback hell, whether it was Smoking Jay Cutler, Rex Grossman, whoever it really was for Chicago at the point in time, Andy Dalton, Mitchell Trubisky. It was overall tough for Chicago for a while. And when they made the move, when they made the trade, when they obviously, stole Justin Fields in the draft, it was absolutely great on draft night. They won the first round, and a lot of people said that there. But Allen Robinson, I was hoping he actually had a true quarterback to throw, to him coming in, with Justin Fields coming in, and this could have been a wild card team. Unfortunately, Allen Robinson is out now. They did not make it to the wild card, so things were definitely tough for Chicago in the 2021 NFL season. I give them a D for a grade as well. I can't give them a B because they weren't average. I can't give them a C because I thought they had better talent than being the D grade that they did earn here. It's the coaching, obviously. It's the fact that, It's the fact that, excuse me, I'm totally losing my words here. You obviously had Matt Nagy not being able to perform well, not being able to coach some of these guys up. And then you've also got the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of talent really in Chicago at that point either. Justin Fields being very young, them not really knowing about the entire quarterback situation. Defense wasn't necessarily great as well, so I did stick them with a D for the grade on the season. Now, in terms of needs for the Chicago Bears, I think trenches are a number one need there for them between offensive line, defensive line. Justin Fields was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL at over 50 times. Virtually no pass rush. Khalil Mack is out now as well. And in terms of wide receiver, I understand you have Darnell Mooney, but you do not have Allen Robinson anymore. You need to go out and get a weapon. You need to go out and maybe grab a tight end. You need to go out and, the running back room looks good, but Justin Fields needs more support in that system early on before we see him fall apart and, not be the prospect that he was at Ohio State. Now we have to move on into the dreaded Detroit Lions. Whatever good we can say.
Before you move all the way over there, I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What's up with your grading scale?
What do you mean?
You keep saying people are like, I can't give you a B because you're not average. Like, C is average. When the hell did B become average?
I was always told if you got a B in school, that's an average grade. B was like from 80 to 89. Average. C is below average. It's like, you did your best, but you still didn't hit the average cutoff.
No,
D is like scraping the passing failing line.
A C is average. A B is good. An A is where you want to be. People want to raise the standard and be like, if you don't at least have a B average, then that's unacceptable. But a C is average.
Heard.
2.0.
A, B, C, and then D and F. So like smack in the middle.
A 2.0 is average. A 2.0 is C. It's not a B. I'm like, what? Your grades are harsh as hell.
No, I think they're fair. B is average. 80 to 89. An 80 to an 89 on an assignment, that's an average grade.
That's
anything
not
below
average.
Anything below an 80, that's below average, but you're above failing. That's why you're floating between an F and a C.
Is below average.
Below a C is below average.
A C is the definition of average and mediocrity.
A C is the definition of average.
B is not average.
I think B is average. B has always been average.
It's not.
I think it is.
A C is passing.
I'm sorry that the grading scales don't line up, but B is definitely average. C is below average.
What the hell school did you go to?
I went to Crabapple Lane Elementary in Peachtree City. Went right over to Flat Rock and Tyrone and graduated from Sandy Creek.
A D or an F is not passing. A C is passing, which is average. It's just passing.
I hear you, bro. So we got B pluses and we got B minuses. I mean, I'm sorry, man. I can't change my 24 years of grade school curriculum on this earth just because the C might be an average for you. I apologize, Triple F.
No, not for me. That's the actual grading scale. That's what I'm like. I'm thrown off.
So for you, a 71 to a 79 is average?
Yes, that's average. C is average.
That's below average, fees.
Yo,
average is 80.
Please
average is
weigh
B.
in, Petty Nation.
Let us know what the grade scale
Anyone who went to normal school, like everyone not named Adam. Let them know that
I'm a Florida fan too, if y'all didn't know.
Average.
No, if you're getting 71s to 79s on your test, that is below average. If you're getting 80s to 89s, that's average. If you're getting A's, that's above average because you're learning better than what they're teaching you in the curriculum.
In addition to the fact that I went to school and understand the scale, I also I taught for 9 years.
I hear you.
A C is average.
I hear you. I don't think below an 80 is average. Below an 80 to me is under average. You can't even get 80% correct, but I'm supposed to call you average at 70 to 79%? Hell no. You think 70 to 79% players are starters in the league? No, because they're below average.
You can't compare.
They're below, but that's what we're talking is grades.
Starters.
That's what we're talking is grades in the league, though.
A grade is a grade. A C is average.
A B is average to me, man. Sorry.
That's insane.
I can't call someone average that's at a 70 to a 70. That's below average to me. But we got 5 minutes. I think that little...
Jesus.
Tell me how you feel about Detroit, Mo. Damn. I'm not the Lions here, man. Okay, the Lions are the topic.
The Lions are getting an F. They're absolutely getting a whole F. They went 3-13-1. They traded for Jared Goff just because they decided to do Matt Stafford a solid for whatever reason. They felt like they just owed it to him to send him to the team that he eventually went on to win a Super Bowl in. But they had a terrible season. I mean, 3-13-1 is god-awful. I mean, they were 25th in points scored, 22nd in total offense, 31st in points allowed. There's only 32 teams in the league. 31st in points allowed. Their defense is terrible. 29th in yards allowed. So, I mean, everyone had their way with them. You could run on them. You could pass on them. You score on them whenever you feel like it. I mean, they did have a few close games, but outside of that one disgusting tie they had with Pittsburgh, because they're also terrible, they're a bad football team. So, I mean, as far as their needs go, like they need defense, and more defense. I mean, their offense needs work too, but the defense was just god-awful. 28th against the run. Teams just line up. I mean, like, they were basically treating the Detroit Lions the way Bill Belichick approached that crazy, ridiculous game in Buffalo where he ran the ball all but 3 plays the entire game.
Yeah.
They need interior defensive linemen. They need linebackers. They have got to figure out the defensive side of the ball and then work on actually getting something that resembles an offense to go around Goff. If you're going to hold on to him, I mean, he showed that he's not terrible, but they have nothing. I mean, at least when he was in L.A., they had weapons. They had something serviceable for him to work with. You brought him out there to work with nothing, and he gave you nothing because the team was terrible. So, I mean, they need some of everything. It's like the draft. They can't even adjust. They can't address everything at one time. They just need to choose a side of the ball and one facet of the game and work on that. This is a 3 to 4 year project in Detroit.
So they got a bunch of C players or a bunch of D players? Are they average players or below average players?
I mean, clearly they got an F.
Oh, geez. Oh, Detroit, before we roll out of here, ladies and gentlemen, let us know about the grade scale. Who's got the average grade? What is an A? What is a B? What is a C? But we know that Detroit gets an F for sure. I definitely got to double down there with you, Fees. There's nothing positive we can really say about this team. I even said coming into the year, I don't think they believe in Jared Goff to do them right. Maybe he lasts 2 seasons there, but again, we don't know what Jared Goff is going to be. TJ Hawkinson was going to be the security blanket for him, which he clearly was at that point in time. Penei Sewell was going to be a top-performing rookie, and he actually did turn out that way. And then, of course, they were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL with no strong suit at all, no true strength, and will have a top draft pick, which hence they are drafting number 2 in this year's draft. Gave them an F as well. Nothing positive to take away from them. I mean, great that they had TJ Hawkinson. Great that DeAndre Swift plays there, but those guys need to get out. Jared Goff is just going to waste away in that type of career, and not even to go a disrespectful length, but if Baker Mayfield ended up as a Detroit Lion, I would not be surprised. In terms of major needs for this team, everything. Quarterback, maybe not running back because they have a couple of solid guys back there, but again, you've got some wide receivers, but you need a lot. Okay, it's not that any position truly stands out. You need defense, you need offense. I can't even go through all the positions because again, it's not something that really pops off the page. They've got a lot of B, C, and D players over in Detroit. But we're gonna go ahead and hop out of here, ladies and gentlemen. 9:59 left on the show. 1 minute left on the show, rather. It has been a great show. It has been a fast show. Come back next week for the last half of the NFL mock draft. Next Thursday is a live draft show. 3-hour special. Pimp and Ken in studio. We got trivia. We got draft reviews. We got scouting reports. We got segments. We've got everything. You can hop in a Zoom call. You can call in the show. Hit the QR code on your screen for every platform Petty Sports is under. Fees, take us out tonight, sir.
Yes, sir. We appreciate y'all every single Wednesday tuning into Petty Sports. We'll be on next Wednesday and next Thursday for a live draft show. And we are launching Petty Sports Black. For y'all who love the HBCU content, make sure you stay tuned. We're going to roll it out.
One of a kind,
It's going to be major. SIAC Sports is on deck. Petty Sports Black. Y'all stay tuned. We love y'all every single Wednesday. We appreciate all of the comments, all of the calls. Y'all keep rocking with us. We out.
Shouts out to Miss Sharp and her Celtics. Yay.
Boo. Can't stand the Celtics. He said, someone get you a Sudafed. The allergies kicking your ass.
Definitely, bro.